Hello and welcome to day 76 in the Not Alone Today Chronological Bible Reading Plan with Joseph and Anu. Today we are in Judges chapters 17 and 18, and we are still in the New Revised Standard Version updated edition for this week.
Chapter 17. There was a man in the hill country of Ephraim whose name was Micah. He said to his mother, "The 1,100 pieces of silver that were taken from you, about which you uttered a curse and even spoke it in my hearing, that silver is in my possession. I took it, and now I will return it to you." And his mother said, "May my son be blessed by the Lord." Then he returned the 1,100 pieces of silver to his mother. And his mother said, "I consecrate the silver to the Lord for my son to make an idol of cast metal." So when he returned the money to his mother took 200 pieces of silver and gave it to the silversmith, who made it into an idol of cast metal, and it was in the house of Micah. This man Micah had a shrine, and he made an ephod and a teraphim, and installed one of his sons who became his priest. In those days, there was no king in Israel. All the people did what was right in their own eyes.
Now there was a young man of Bethlehem in Judah, the clan of Judah. He was a Levite residing there. This man left the town of Bethlehem in Judah to live wherever he could find a place. He came to the house of Micah in the hill country of Ephraim to carry on his work. Micah said to him, "From where do you come?" He replied, "I am a Levite of Bethlehem in Judah, and I am going to live wherever I can find a place." Then Micah said to him, "Stay with me, and be to me a father and a priest, and I will give you 10 pieces of silver a year, a set of clothes, and your living." The Levite agreed to stay with the man, and the young man became to him like one of his sons. So Micah installed the Levite, and the young man became his priest and was in the house of Micah. Then Micah said, "Now I know that the Lord will prosper me, because the Levite has become my priest."
In those days, there was no king in Israel, and in those days, the tribe of the Danites was seeking for itself a territory to live in. For until then, no territory among the tribes of Israel had been allotted to them. So the Danites sent 5 valiant men from the whole number of their clan, from Zorah and from Eshtaol, to spy out the land and to explore it. And they said to them, "Go explore the land." When they came to the hill country of Ephraim, to the house of Micah, they stayed there. While they were at Micah's house, they recognized the voice of the young Levites. So they went over and asked them, "Who brought you here? What are you doing in this place? What is your business here?" He said to them, "Micah did such and such for me, and he hired me, and I have become his priest." And they said to him, "Inquire of God, that we may know whether this mission we're undertaking will succeed." The priest replied, "Go in peace. The mission you are on is under the eye of the Lord."
The 5 men went on, and when they came to Laish, they observed the people who were there living securely, after the manner of the Sidonians, quiet and unsuspecting, lacking nothing on earth, and possessing wealth. Furthermore, they were far from the Sidonians and had no dealings with Aram. When they came to their kinsfolk at Zorah and Eshtaol, they said to them, "What do you report?" They said, "Come, let us go up against them, for we have seen the land, and it is very good. Will you do nothing? Do not be slow to go, but enter in and possess the land. When you go, you will come to an unsuspecting people. The land is broad. God has indeed given it into your hands, a place where there is no lack of anything on earth."
600 men of the Danite clan, armed with weapons of war, set out from Zorah and Eshtaol, and went up and encamped at Kiriath Jearim in Judah. On this account, that place is called Mehanedan to this day. It is west of Kiriath Jearim. From there, they passed on to the hill country of Ephraim and came to the house of Micah.
Then the 5 men who had gone to spy out the land, that is Laish, said to their comrades, "Do you know that in these buildings there are an ephod, teraphim, and an idol of cast metal? Now, therefore, consider what you will do." So they turned in that direction and came to the house of the young Levite at the home of Micah and greeted him, while the 600 men of the Danites, armed with their weapons of war, stood by the entrance of the gate. The 5 men who had gone to spy out the land proceeded to enter and take the idol of cast metal, the ephod, and the teraphim. The priest was standing by the entrance of the gates with the 600 men armed with weapons of war. When the men went into Micah's house and took the idol of cast metal, the ephod, and the teraphim, the priest said to them, "What are you doing?" They said to him, "Keep quiet. Put your hand over your mouth and come with us and be to us a father and a priest. Is it better for you to be priest to the house of one person or to be priest to a tribe and clan in Israel?" Then the priest accepted the offer. He took the ephod, the teraphim, and the idol and went along with the people.
So they resumed their journey, putting the little ones, the livestock, and the goods in front of them. When they were some distance from the home of Micah, the men who were in the houses near Micah's house were called out, and they overtook the Danites. They shouted to the Danites, who turned around and said to Micah, "What is the matter that you come with such a company?" He replied, "You take my gods that I made and the priest and go away, and what have I left? How then can you ask me what is the matter?" And the Danites said to him, "You had better not let your voice be heard among us, or else hot-tempered fellows will attack you, and you will lose your life and the lives of your household." Then the Danites went their way. When Micah saw that they were too strong for him, he turned and went back to his home.
The Danites, having taken what Micah had made and the priest who belonged to him, came to Laish, to a people quiet and unsuspecting, put them to the sword, and burned down the city. There was no deliverer because it was far from Sidon, and they had no dealings with Aram. It was in the valley that belongs to Beth Rehob. They rebuilt the city and lived in it. They named the city Dan after their ancestor Dan, who was born to Israel. But the name of the city was formerly Laish. Then the Danites set up the idol for themselves. Jonathan, son of Gershom, son of Moses, and his sons were priests to the tribe of the Danites, until the time the land went into captivity. So they maintained as their own Micah's idol that he had made, as long as the house of God was at Shiloh. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God. Just a quick summary of what we've read so far. In chapter 17, we read about a man named Micah and about a Levite, and how that Micah first stole some pieces of silver from his mother and then gave it back, and his mom used that to make an idol unto God for him. And also Micah then set up a shrine and appointed one of his sons to become one of his priests. Then afterwards he met a Levite we talked about earlier and appointed the Levite to become the priest. The clan of Dan, we've been told in chapter 18, had no territory. So they sent some men to look for a land they can conquer. Then they go to the house of Micah, saw what Micah has done, like the shrine, the ephod, the teraphim, and the priest. And then the Danites wanted the priest for themselves and took the priest. When Micah tried to accost them and take back the priest, he was told to keep quiet so that he's not attacked and so that he doesn't lose his household as well. So he kept quiet and went his way. The Danites saw a land in Laish, conquered the land and rebuilt it, and they renamed it after their ancestor Dan.
Thank you. Just a couple more perspectives, so to speak, because if you recall, we've read the story of this conquering of this part by the Danites earlier on, not in the full sense of the story. We're just told that the Danites also wanted, a piece of property up north, and they went and conquered it, and they renamed it after their ancestor Dan, in addition to the land that was allotted to them. Can you remember that, Anu?
That's why I said I found it curious that they said they had no territory, because they had one they were allotted one earlier.
Yes. So this story, what we have read so far in chapter 17 and 18, has happened earlier on in the book of Judges, even before we started seeing the Judges. I think from chapter 17 to the end of the book of Judges, what the author of the book of Judges is trying to do is to actually paint the picture of what is going on in those days when there was no king and there was no one and everybody was just doing whatever they like in their own eyes. And that phrase kept coming. It came in chapter 17, verse 6. It came in chapter 18, verse 1. And will continue to pop up. Even the very last verse in the book of Judges also said the same thing. And in those days, there was no king in Israel, and everybody did what was right in their own eyes. So yeah, it's quite a curious couple of chapters centering around this curious character called Micah. And yeah, it's an interesting piece of story. I remember that when we read that part earlier on, when we even acknowledged or even quote and unquote praised the Danites that well done,
they renamed it.
You went ahead and even possessed your possession and even renamed it after your ancestor. But then seeing the backstory behind that now, it makes you feel okay.
Not so good.
Not so good indeed, yeah. But yeah, did anything stand out to you in chapter 17?
What stood out to me in 17 was how he stole the 1,100 pieces of silver and then returned it to his mom. And there was no rebuke from his mom. He just said, may my son be blessed by the Lord. And then she used 200. She consecrated the silver to the Lord to make an idol of cast metal. And I thought to myself, how far removed is this from all the instructions that was given in Deuteronomy?
Yeah.
God said, do not make any idol of any graven image, whether metal, whether wood. He's just to be known as God. So I don't understand why the woman would consecrate 11 pieces of silver to God to make an idol of cast metal. And to the point that Micah now asked one of his sons to be priest over the same idol. And I thought, their generation was far, far removed from the instructions that was laid down, that they do not know what they're doing. And we do have a record here that in verse 6, in verse 6, that the people did what was right in their own eyes. So Micah must have thought, and the mom must have thought, this is right in God's eye. We're making the idol in his name. So it should be right.
Indeed.
Yeah.
That's the main point that the story, I believe, is trying to portray. That when God is not the leader, or when there is no structured, visible leadership, this is what can happen. In those days, there was no king in Israel. All the people did what was right in their own eyes, in spite of the detailed, clear instructions that God has given them. Even the Levites in that chapter, the roving Levites from Bethlehem, who all of a sudden too chose to accept a contract to become a personal Levite or personal priest to just someone that made a personal God between himself and his mom. It's a very crazy picture. But then the Holy Spirit would link that to say, okay, what does that look like for us today, in the sense that when we live, and many Christians do live as though God is not their Lord. Like, yes, we claim Christianity as an identity. We probably attend church as often as we can. But there are so many Christians. I think the common phrase for them is to say nominal Christians. People that are just Christian by name and church attendance and identity, or even a national identity in some sense, because some countries will claim they are Christian countries. But be that as it may, is He the Lord of our lives? Is He the one calling the shots? When He's not, we can continue to do whatever we like and think it's right, as long as it's okay, I'm not hurting anyone. But really, when it comes down to it, as many as are led by the Spirit of the Lord, they are the sons of God. And that's what stood out to me from this chapter.
Yeah.
Chapter 18, which is still a continuation of the same decadence, if you will.
What stood out to me in 18 is verse 6. When the Levites said to them, go in peace, this mission you're on is under the eye of the Lord. But it wasn't recorded that he made any inquiry of God. Like, he just knew it and said it. And his appointment as a priest over an idol that was placed, does that not mean that the commission of his priesthood is wrong in itself?
Yeah. Of course, the commissioning, everything about the priesthood. The Bible was very detailed in the days of Moses. There was detailed instructions for the Levites, for each of the tribes sub-tribes within that, and what they are meant to be doing. So for a Levite to come and become a personal priest is in itself problematic. And the God to whom they are inquiring is, again, a big question mark. And all of these question marks are intentional in the sense of you are meant to read this story and just say, what's all this nonsense? And then you discover, the answer is that in those days there was no king in Israel and everybody just did whatever they felt was right in their own eyes. And this is what will then lead on to the cycle that we've seen through the book of Judges. Samson is the last judge that was mentioned of all the 12 judges that we have seen. But both in the beginning couple of chapters and in the concluding few chapters of the book, they've brought that kind of backdrop against which all of those cycles of apostasy and then repentance and crying to God and God raising a judge or a deliverer and then going back into apostasy. This is happening all in the context of there was no king and everybody just did whatever they think was right, in spite of the fact that there actually is a king and their king should have been God. And he has made his counsel and his will very, very plain and known to all the people. Yeah.
Makes sense.
All right. Of course, we pick it up from here again tomorrow because the story continues and we see more and more interesting experiences or manifestations of the darkness of that era and how that will all lead on to eventually the story of the book of Ruth, which we'll be going to in a couple of days. But before then, or till then, just remember,
you're not alone
today.
God bless you.